Today in Biology 1, we're going to be getting into more familiar territory. We'll be talking about animals in this chapter. Animals include a huge variety of living things, and our goal in this chapter in large part is just going to be to sort of paint a picture of the diversity that we encounter in the animal kingdom. So again, this is a huge kingdom. We're going to do our best to break it into small pieces as we go. And to get us started, let's start off with what are some things that all animals have in common. This helps us to understand what sorts of living things can be placed into this kingdom, the animal kingdom. So let's take a look. Characteristics of animals. All animals, humans included, are eukaryotic. Our cells have organelles inside of them. Our DNA is housed inside of a nucleus, and all animals are multicellular. So we have many of these cells put together, arranged into, in most cases, specialized tissues that do specific jobs. All animals are also heterotrophic, so we have to obtain our nutrition by eating other things. Right? Animals do that, humans included. And this is the thing that sets animals apart from fungi. So remember the fungi, they were heterotrophic as well. They were not capable of photosynthesis. But the thing that they did is they absorbed their nutrients from their surroundings. They secreted digestive enzymes out into their surroundings and then absorbed the nutrients. Animals don't do it that way. Animals ingest the food, they eat the food, and then carry out digestion internally inside of our digestive tract. Animals do not have any cell walls, right? So our cells just have a plasma membrane around them, no cell walls. And then most animals, nearly all, there's going to be, I think, just one exception to this, have muscles, and those muscles allow us to move, right? So muscles have to work in conjunction with a skeleton. When the muscle contracts, that shortens the muscle, and that in turn pulls on a bone, which moves our body in different ways. So this has to work in conjunction with a nervous system. We have a nervous system that allows us to control muscles. We'll be getting to that at the end of the semester together, talking about how the nervous system works. But in any case, in terms of characteristics of animals, most animals can move, and that's through the use of muscles. Most animals are diploid, so 2 copies of all of our genes. We are diploid and reproduce sexually, meaning that we have that sort of reshuffling of genes going on. Cell division by meiosis is the process that allows us to accomplish that. And let's just take a look at the animal life cycle. So we're going to start up here at the top where we can see the gametes. Let's just label these as such. These are, whoops, let me get my pen. I can write here. These are gametes, right? And these are the cell types that are produced by meiosis. So egg and sperm, these are the 2 gamete cells. And when those fuse together, they form a zygote. Circle that word, zygote. And that zygote undergoes many rounds of mitosis and ends up producing a hollow ball of cells. It's called a blastula. This blastula right here. See how it's hollow on the inside? The cells are making up that shell. That blastula will continue to undergo rounds of mitosis, so more cell division takes place. And if you look at what happens, we end up getting this section that folds inwards down here. This is going to continue to grow up inside of the blastula, and that is going to become the digestive tract. So, right, think of like digestive tract from the mouth to the anus. That digestive tract is a really key thing in the animal being able to survive. All right, so once this ball of cells has that fold inwards, now it's called a gastrula. And that gastrula continues to go through many rounds of cell division, and eventually what's depicted here in this general animal life cycle is that there is a larval stage. And I just want to draw your attention to this section right here, for this larvae that's formed and metamorphosis. The reason I'm outlining this is because this is only in some animals. People don't go through a metamorphosis stage, but insects do. So this, let's just make a note, this is only in some animals. Okay, but other than that, this can be taken as a very generic sort of life cycle for animals. Okay, so when we start to sort of look at all the diversity that exists in the animal kingdom, how do we organize all of this information? One of the easiest ways to organize animals is based on their body plan, how their bodies are arranged in the adult animal. And so we need to talk about symmetry. There are a couple of different types of symmetry that living things can exhibit. Many animals, people included, exhibit what's called bilateral symmetry. And this is the same thing as thinking of like a mirror plane, like right down the middle. Your right half and your left half tend to be more or less mirror images of each other. There are some differences, of course, but overall your body seems to be sort of equal right and left halves. So that's bilateral symmetry. This crawdad has bilateral symmetry. This shovel also has bilateral symmetry. So just giving a couple of examples of that type of symmetry. The other sort of symmetry that we'll be seeing in the animal kingdom is radial symmetry. And you can take a look at this picture to sort of get an idea of what this is talking about. In this case, there's not just one mirror plane, but rather there are many possible mirror planes, planes that you could make a cut and say the two halves look the same, look approximately the same. So that's radial symmetry. A good example of something that has radial symmetry would be a starfish, right? It's got radial arms that come outwards, and you could make a cut along any of those arms and have two halves of a starfish that look the same. So two different types of symmetry. The other thing that we will be using, or at least it's useful to be aware of, is that there are some differences internally. When we look at different animals, just the way that the tissues are arranged inside of the body, there are some key differences there as well. If you look at this worm on the left, this is called a flatworm. We'll be seeing this a little bit later on today. When you look at this cross section, it's almost like there are no gaps except for the digestive tract right in the middle. It's just kind of a uniform spread of tissue. And if you compare that with the worm on the right, and this is more what an earthworm would look like, if you make a cross section, what you'll see are there are distinct regions. There is what's called a body cavity, which is just an open space which houses other things. The presence of that body cavity is going to help us with differentiating different sorts of animals. So let's just take a look at the overall categorization scheme for animals, and then we'll be able to walk through the different categories of animals. So we're going to start off by asking this question: does the animal have true tissues inside? And this is going back to the internal organization. Are there specialized tissues that are sort of separated into distinct regions? If not, then by definition, we're talking about the sponges. These sponges are very uniform. They don't really have distinct tissues inside of their bodies. So the sponges will be the only thing that go in that branch right there. If an animal does have true tissues, then we can go on and ask the question about symmetry. What type of symmetry do we see from the outside? Does it have radial symmetry, or does it have bilateral symmetry? If it has radial symmetry, we're talking about cnidarians. We'll visit the cnidarians later, see what that includes. If it has bilateral symmetry, then we're going to go on and ask specifically about the body cavity. Is there a body cavity, that open space internally, or not? And depending on our answer to that question, it's going to help us figure out which of those groupings we're in. So that's our overall categorization scheme, and we'll essentially be walking through these different groupings of animals in this chapter.